Hello and welcome to the Bones Horror Podcast. This is our episode 89, A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. Tonight we have with us Larry.
Hello.
And Ewan.
Hello.
And no Jess at the moment. You look tired there, Ewan.
Yeah, I'm just tired. It was it's that thing where I've actually I spend the weekends just in the flat, but I thought I'd make an effort this weekend and go out. And it's a really annoying thing with disability and social anxiety. You just get mentally and physically worn out all the time. It's just really annoying. But also, I'm making efforts to lose weight, so all the sort of sugar and fat and salt, which sort of usually sort of energize me, are just like not there.
Gone.
So I've just
that's gone.
I just feel really tired, unfortunately. Otherwise,
So
I've got my wine.
You got your wine, and also. And also, we have with us Tommy Chong as well tonight from Cheech and Chong.
Nice. As soon as the image came out, I was like, I know what's coming.
So, what you been up to, Larry? Obviously, smoking lots of hash.
Yeah. Just chilling on my weekends. You know how it is. I recently got a new job, which was cool. I am now a content creator for JC Sports, which is a company around the area. They used to be in the area that I was, but they've moved to Petersfield sort of place. But that was good. Okay. And Ewan, thank you for the I guess you call it recommendation, because
did you reuse that?
No. If anyone's listening, that was the first time.
Yeah, that was the first one I sent.
Yeah,
I can imagine all my drawers are just filled with recommendations with different jobs for you.
Just literally, Ewan, I need it for this. Oh shit, no.
Yeah. What do you have to do? What do you have to do?
So I head up all of the content basically promote their business. So videos, photography, website, leaflets, just all of the content that's promoting their business. I head up, which is cool, because I think anyone can agree that especially when you go to uni for a film degree, you want to do something with it.
Yeah. I'm very much in that position.
Actually. But yeah, that's basically been it. I was in London a few days, and was in Fulham when they had the Chelsea game recently, so it was quite hectic. And but then obviously in London they've stopped all the tubes and the trains, which has been a bit of a hassle. But all back now.
I had a busy one. Yesterday I had my son's birthday, Jess's birthday, my mum's birthday, all on the same day.
Oh, on the same day?
Yeah, I was just about to ask that.
On the same day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have been hectic.
It was mad, because we were going to somewhere called Global in Southampton, which is an all-you-can-eat place, which I quite like. So there was 16 of us, but Jess decided to go out the night before and consume Jaeger bombs and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, Jaeger bombs.
So we rung her and said, "Where are you, sweetheart?" And she was hammered, basically, not being ill. So she had no hunger, so she didn't come along. So, but we did see her in town afterwards. So that was a lovely day. Followed.
Wait. Sorry. Oh yeah, you're going to say the same. You're going to say the same thing, I think. So we're ill, and then didn't go to the food, and you were like, "Oh, we'll go to town." Whereas in the day, sort of in town, just back on the Eagers, let's go.
Yeah. Well, I think she was going out. Yeah, she was definitely going to be going out. She definitely did go out again, because I saw her today as well, but she didn't look too bad. So then my brother was up from Wales as well. So that was nice seeing him. He came around last night, so I thought I'd get the boxing for us. Sky box office have made it nearly impossible.
Yes.
If you haven't got Sky to watch it. So as I bought it, I had to watch it on my iPhone. So yeah, there's a lot of money to watch that on your iPhone. So I watched that, and he joined me and watched that. So I had a few drinks. So yeah, very pleasant. Off to a festival next week. So I'm off to Carfest.
Oh,
You know
nice.
that one
nice.
up Basingstoke. So there'll be no podcast next weekend for me anyway. On Sunday, because I'm not getting back till probably Monday at some point. But yeah,
And what do they show at Carfest?
Okay, there's lots. It's a Chris Evans kind of festival, so for
Right.
children in need, and there'll be. I'll tell you some bands that are there. So Rag and Bone Man is there.
Yeah.
So I don't know who he is. And then the Kaiser Chiefs. I know they are.
Yeah.
C6 Steve.
Yeah.
No.
Steps. You in? You like
Steps?
Steps?
I remember
Yeah.
Steps. I
Yeah,
remember
so
Steps,
they'll
yeah,
be there.
yeah.
Pamela Faith, she's there.
Paloma
Russell
Faith.
Brand. That's it. What's her name?
Paloma Faith.
Oh right,
Yeah.
okay, yes. So she's there, Paloma.
That
So-
one. That one.
and Russell Brand and
What's
Jimmy
Russell Brand doing there?
Probably
It's
doing
just-
like.
Oh,
a
are they
tour.
just comedians? They just
Yeah.
Well, they're
just-
doing
right.
stuff, and Jimmy Carr's there. There's lots and lots of people, and
Mm.
we'll be there from Thursday till Monday, so that should be
Oh,
fun.
nice.
So I might broadcast from the. Could do something from there. Yeah, so busy next week. We were meant to do this a couple of weeks ago. This film, me and Jess, we haven't released it as an audio podcast yet, but we did a kind of bonus episode of us and some of the bits I'd watched last week, which I can tell you all about. But it was only about 30 minutes long. As you can imagine, Jess doesn't say that much about the films really anymore. So it's about 30 minutes, little bonus episode. It's done all right. So anyway, let's move on to this Nightmare on Elm Street 5. How many more we got? We got at least two.
I was going to say one more before Nightmare.
Yeah, we got
and
Freddy's Dead
then-
next. Yeah.
Yeah. Then it's Nightmare. Then it's
New
depending on which order, because I don't know if we're doing it release or just what we like to. But then you've got Freddy versus Jason.
I think
And
that
then
one
you've
after
got-
that, yeah.
Yeah, and then the Nightmare on Elm Street the remake.
That would be a revisit for us again. Wow.
Oh.
Yeah, so then we're gonna have to have a new
I'm gonna have to build up my vocals for that one.
Your Venom.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that should be good. I actually didn't like it that much. I think I liked a couple of scenes, and that was it. So, but anyway, so this was 1989. This film came out, I think, and it was directed by Stephen Hopkins, Predator 2 fame. Yeah, and The Reaping. We did talk about the new Predator film last week, I think.
Oh, can we mention it again later?
Yes, definitely, because I'm keen to hear what you think, because I liked it, of course. But yeah, so, and he also did The Reaping with Hilary Swank.
Oh.
You saw that? It's come out quite a while ago.
Yes.
And a few other bits and pieces. So it starred Robert Englund as Freddie and Lisa Wilcox as Alice Johnson. And a Rotten Tomato scores of what are you thinking?
52.
Yeah, I feel like I saw it flash up on the.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Damn it, you. We were supposed to look really.
It's really specific, Lawrence.
Yeah.
So this one's from last week's one, so no. It's
not.
actually 31%. So you
I
fell
was-
for that, didn't you? Cheating.
Well, no, but I was thinking when it came up earlier. on the
Cheating's
screen,
never prosper.
when it came up earlier on the screen, I was thinking like 52%. That is quite high for this film.
It is high for that, isn't it?
Well, but no, it's not that at all.
Oh, you like this one? Excellent. So at a budget of 8 million and a box office of 22 million. I thought it would have more than that.
I think
for
it was.
1989.
I think I read that it was the second lowest grossing Nightmare film. So I think this was the stage when it started to drop off box office wise. They weren't really able
think
to
a lot-
meet the.
A lot of people just, I think, at this stage kind of thought. I mean, I will go into this on like thoughts and opinions, but I think that a lot of people at this stage kind of thought, what else can this franchise give? Because a lot of the stuff, you had more serious take, and then you had the kind of let's explore the world. You had like some sequels that are a bit hit and miss, and I think at this stage, Dream Warriors, Dream, what was it called? Dream something, and then Dream Child, and then
Dream Warriors, Dream
Warriors, Dream Master, and then Dream Child.
Dream Dream Wanker, Dream.
Dream Makers, yeah.
That was my favourite, Dream Wankers.
Yeah.
Really explore the plot on what you could do in your dream.
Oh god. Well, so let's. Is this a first watch, Ewan?
It is a first watch
Yeah,
for me. And actually, I
Don't
might divide people here.
I know what you're gonna say.
But I actually quite enjoyed it.
Yeah. I'm surprised.
Very surprised. Like I was totally expecting to sit there and go, "Oh God, it's another one." It's because I think there's been a certain degree of boredom, especially with the fourth one, where it's just like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go get through this all the time." But actually, this is the first one in a while that didn't bore me at all. I was actually quite entertained throughout the whole thing, which was a surprise, especially as I looked at the sort of reviews after it from the time. It's just like this is a really shit film. It's like I thought it was all right. I thought it was fine.
Me too. It's grown on me actually. Each time, it's just fun, isn't it? It's just stupid. Nothing makes sense. The little kid's weird as well, and it's just a pretty strange film. What's going on with his eyes? I wonder if they're still like that now.
Which eyes? What the child's eyes?
Yeah, when he's a boy, like I don't know how old he's meant to be in it, 6, 7, I don't know. But massive eyes. Yes, I liked it. So Larry.
So I'll stand by. I say I think every time we review one, which is I really like the deaths. I think that they remain creative, and I think that they don't just rehash stuff. There's a lot of new and creative ways that they do it, and I think that is. It was a shame for me because I think that as the series went on, I feel as though they maintained that aspect, but that was because that was at the top of their list every time. Do you know what I mean? Like when they were picturing it, they clearly were like, "Oh, we need creative three deaths." So there's no issue there. It's just I don't know. I feel as though the story just should have ended by now. And it doesn't. And as we're gonna go on, obviously, like with more podcasts and review the next one and the one after, it just doesn't stop because clearly something's like sequel, and again, it's not. I would agree, it's not the worst one. It definitely isn't. But me personally, I just think that at this stage in this franchise, this film, the next film, and especially the last film, just take a direction where in my head I'm like, why are we going somewhere completely different? But that's a personal thing. It's not critically bad. Like I wouldn't say it is a shit film. If you ask me, should we watch Nightmare on Elm Street 2 or should we watch Nightmare on Elm Street: The Dream Child, I would 100% pick Dream Child over. But it's just not. I don't know. It's just not my cup of tea, as they say.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's interesting with me because it's like, so in terms of like the plot, it takes Alice from the fourth film, who was the Dream Master. Again, not entirely sure what that means from that film, but she's here and she's just graduated high school, I think. And it's interesting that the first scene is like her essentially having sex with a boyfriend, but it's filmed in quite an interesting way. It's filmed in sort of kind of an art housey way where it's like really deep blue colors and it's just like close-ups of the bodies, and like the bodies almost don't look human. They just look like really sort of, I don't know, they look sort of twisted in a weird way. And Freddy obviously comes back. He comes back.
How did he come back? How did he come back again?
Well, he came.
The plot just shat him out.
Yeah, the plot just shat him out. Yeah,
like it does in every single film.
Yeah, but I did love Freddy's entrance, where it's essentially Alice essentially somehow gets pregnant, presumably from her boyfriend, and she has the dream of Freddy sort of remorphing, and his entrance is it's just like, it's a boy. I found that was just a really funny entrance. And then he sort of tried. I actually didn't understand this that much as I was watching the film, but the premise is that he is trying to go through the dreams of the unborn child and trying to control the child in order to be like a spawn of Freddy. And it sort of continues it in that way. It's funny, really, because I was quite also interested in, like, obviously the kind of hidden subtext of, like, you know, abortion and teen pregnancy and stuff like that. And I thought actually that was quite interesting. I mean, clearly there's sort of, because I mean during the 80s you sort of got a few more like abortion storylines, like in Dirty Dancing and stuff like that. And I thought that was quite an interesting take. I also like the whole motherhood angle, in that they sort of they get back Freddy's mother, or the storyline of Freddy's mother that was sort of built up in Dream Warriors, sort of nun who was raped by 100 maniacs, and that scene was actually quite well shot as well, where it's just like, I mean, obviously ridiculous, but she's sort of in the middle of these maniacs, and she's sort of essentially being torn to pieces. And it's and also really liked how this film was shot. It was kind of like, I mean, it was, again, very ridiculous at times, but I kind of liked how it moved, just like swayed with like the emotions of the scene. And then I thought the deaths were actually pretty entertaining and pretty good. Some of them were quite Cronenbergian. So there was a scene with Alice's boyfriend where he's on the motorcycle. And he's essentially being sort of like connected to the motorcycle, and his like head's being stretched and stuff like that. And I thought that was quite a sort of Cronenbergian sort of melding of like man and machine kind of situation. And I quite enjoyed that. I also quite liked the group. I quite liked the guy who's really into comic books. And
which is one of my favorite deaths. I love that is a great, like, again, very clever, you know. Just very clever death.
I really like that. Again, I actually thought it was quite innovative how they did it, where they essentially made him into a sort of 2D comic book character that sort of Freddy like ruins. It's sort of it's a really interesting part. But also, I actually quite like the best. I think the reason why this film didn't feel as boring to me as a few of the others was that I like the fact that Freddy has a conflict, or at least he is not. He is sort of vulnerable in some way because of the influence that his mother has. I quite liked that aspect of it, because I you go through these movies and they're often entertaining. It's great, but you do go through it just going, oh yeah, well, Freddy's not going to die, is he? So I mean, where's the conflict? And it's kind of like, okay, he's just not going to die, so you're just going to go through it. Whereas in this, it was quite there were more stakes. And you got the sense that he was vulnerable, and he was actually afraid of someone, which was actually quite an interesting angle to put on it. And I was actually interested in how it turned out. I mean, obviously, it wasn't. There are a few things that are a bit odd, like sometimes how the directors are really how the actors are directed. They're sort of like, I don't know. They felt very exaggerated to me, their performances. I know a lot of the films do have exaggerated performances, but here it just felt especially the case. It's almost like the director was going, do it bigger, you know, that sort of thing. It was just like, yeah. But no, I actually thought it was fine. It's sort of again, I can't really make sense of the plot, and I love I also love the fact that sort of the mother, clearly they wanted like her to be like surrounded by doves at all times. I reckon that was the original idea, but she's actually surrounded by pigeons, which is like far less effective. You'd see it in the thing as well, where there's like about 10 pigeons and like one dove just sort of bobbing its head just around. It's clearly they couldn't afford the doves; they could only afford the pigeons.
On a budget, they were on a budget.
Yeah. And it's also weird because I actually, I mean, this probably is because it wasn't as popular as the other ones, but I could find very little around this film. only that in terms of like, you know, how it was made, and there was only like the brief like making ofs on the Blu-ray, but it was sort of like Stephen Hopkins. Be great if Stephen Hawking did it. That'd be amazing. But Stephen Hopkins, you could tell that he had a quite a decent vision in mind. Although I did think I read somewhere that he's actually very disappointed by this film. But leaving that aside, he was you could see that like there were various like artistic things, and he actually when he was making the film, he made like several like sketches, and that was part of his pitch really when he was like pitching to do the films. He like did really detailed sketches, especially of that there's a scene where it's like stairways going up and down and to the side and stuff, and that's based on like the Escher paintings, which is like the sort of mathematical impossibly things that is often used in films. It's used in Inception and
Labyrinth.
I think it's Labyrinth, Squid Game I think uses it as well.
Yeah.
I thought that scene was actually really, really effective. Also I it's funny, this is the only time when I genuinely recoiled in fear in all 5 movies, but when the tarantulas came out, I was just like, no, fuck off. I have a massive phobia of spiders, so I'm just like, no, I can't even look. It can't even look. And it's just like, oh yeah. But so I actually think, I mean, compared to 4, which as we've discussed, 4 just really felt like, I mean, felt really rushed, but also just felt like it was a first draft. Whereas I think this, I mean, it might well have been a first draft, I'm not entirely sure, but it felt a bit tighter. It felt like a bit more of a satisfying experience. And yeah, I had fun with it.
Fair.
I like it. I'm glad you enjoyed it because I like it, and I ain't got a clue what's going on half the time in it, but there's some great kills in it.
The kills are great.
Yeah,
the kills are great.
Was this the last? I don't know how good the kills in the last. I can't remember. I've got to watch them again. But this might be as good as it got, really, for kills.
I would be interested to see, because obviously, because with some of the death, I was like, oh yeah, this is great. It's really horrible. Although I did like in my mind wonder what like for example, one of them is a girl who has like anorexia or you know a body issue, and Freddy like stuffs her with food. I mean, that's quite a upsetting scene. I thought it was great, but I do wonder how someone who actually has anorexia would see that scene, or if it was like an accurate depiction of what they were going through, or they would be offended by it, or so there are certain things like that. There also it was interesting on the making of. I can't exactly remember. I think her name is Rachel Talalay, who actually directed the 6th one. She was always on the Freddy movies, like on set and everything. And it was quite interesting what she said about the sort of imagery of like the womb like imagery of like of the movie, and you could see in her face that she was slightly skeptical. She was like, yeah, you have to kind of ask the males on set like about their obsession with wombs and vaginas, because it's kind of, because you get the sort of like there's like the hole which like the camera goes through, and it's like there's, but I mean, again, I didn't really have a problem with that. I thought it worked within the narrative, but again, I kind of wonder what, you know, what a lot of women might think of it.
I don't mind vaginas in films at all. I don't think there's enough, to be honest.
That's the quote for the Bones Horror Podcast.
Not enough vaginas.
Not enough vaginas, and we don't mind it if they're on.
We're yeah. How can I get that into the podcast in the future? I don't know. So
every film just watch Prey. Not enough vagina.
There wasn't enough vagina in that. No, it was great.
Unless you count the Predator's face.
Exactly. Because it is a little bit vagina, isn't it? To be honest.
The teeth and the claws and everything, just exactly reminiscent.
Oh dear. So here we go. Sorry.
Jess just said, what did I just tune into? I'm wondering
Yeah,
what
We
was
swear,
that,
we
Jess.
swear there's a reason. We swear there's a reason. Just go back. Just go back.
Oh,
It's about the
excellent.
imagery, Jess, of using vaginas in this film, but I didn't really get that from it, to be honest.
I don't think it's specifically vagina. Well,
It's
it's
like it's like
subtextual.
it's like the process of and like using imagery to, I guess, like convey certain like connotations with that. But yeah, like I won't lie, like when it's only when you bring it up does my mind then go, oh, okay, yeah, like there's, but you have that. I think you have that in most, I'd say most horrors as well. There's always imagery that's very much has a subtext to it.
Yeah.
That sometimes goes underneath the radar.
Yeah, mine definitely always goes under my radar. Anyway, she's happy with that. So, we may not have discussed it if you've been on, Jess, to be honest. So you might have picked up on it, but only you did. So what?
You're gonna make me look like the
Yeah,
pervert.
literally, it's just like, yeah, we wouldn't have brought it up.
You kept pushing it. You kept pushing it.
We've had 16 messages before we came on, just asking us continuously.
Yeah.
Don't bring this up.
So, what are your thoughts, Larry? Really?
For me personally, it's not saying the film is terrible, because it definitely isn't terrible. I think that, you know, cinematography, as you said and brought up, the acting, and you know, the effects and practical effect. I've read that so wrong. But yeah, I think one thing that's with all of these films, and I know it sounds like beating a dead horse, but yes, the depth is how they're done, the practicality of it, and you know, which is why I'm not very fond of, you know, when we get to it, the remake and everything, because they substituted that. Nice. they substituted that for a more efficient, you know, CGI. Let's just get it out there. So I really do appreciate that about these films as a whole. Even with the second one, I just find that the story for me after Dream Warriors, and again, I don't really look at 2. I look at 2 as like kind of a side film. But for me, I think I've always said it. For me, it's Nightmare on Elm Street 1, and then obviously the third one, Dream Warriors. That's, to me, they are like 1 and 2. But I feel like the story, and it continues, and I'll probably repeat my exact same sentence as I am now in the next review. But I just find that the story was very strung out. That they didn't sit down and say, what creatively can we do, Freddy, and what haven't we done yet? And you know, the whole like Dream Warriors, and I'm like, great, and it's like Dream Master, and then you start going, all right, and it's like Dream Child, and it's like, all right, it's like I'm waiting for Dream Grandma, Dream Uncle,
Dream vaginas,
the Dream Vagina.
Oh dear.
But no, so yes, it's not one of my favorites, but it's definitely not like, I wouldn't ever put it as the lowest film. I'd say for me, it's actually bang in the middle of, it's all right, but I just wish the story was better.
So what's your favorite? The third, wasn't it? Or the first?
The first is my favorite, as in story, but if I was picking like my personal of like, entertainment and enjoyment, it's the third. And that's why I hold those 2 as like 1 and 2 in my head, because I think it continues the Nancy story quite well and rounds everything up. Whereas these later films really are trying to push like, this character that you saw in this one film, and now she's the key. She's the key, everyone. And now it's her child. It's her child, everyone. It's just like, I don't know. And it's the same thing that what happened, in my opinion, with Friday the 13th, in that there are some films in that franchise that you can tell someone sat down and went, probably smoking a massive fat J, and just Jason goes to hell.
Dude.
Jason goes to Manhattan. No, he's fucking banging. So,
Are they our next ones then? Are we doing them? Should we do them next?
Yeah, can do. I mean, to be fair,
The
it lines
lot.
up. All of them. But yeah, no, for me, it's bang. This one's bang smack in the middle. If I had all of them, this one's in the middle because it's not a bad film, as we've said. Like it really isn't. But the only thing that lets down for me is the story. I just wish that they had sat down a little bit and just thought, how can we reinvent this or how can we make it new and refreshing? Whereas a lot of these sequels do just go, do you remember this character? Well, now this character's doing this. Freddy's come back, and you, as we joke about a lot, it's like how is he coming back?
Well, it's interesting because I mean, because like it's almost like we're almost like sort of spoiled by today's standards, right? In that, we're very lucky in that we have maybe a horror sequel every 2 years. Because they want to make it really, really good. Whereas I think back in the day, it was like, no, we had to do this every year, and I'm just like, just calm down, just have a think, and that was my main problem with 4, to be honest.
And an example would be, and I haven't seen it yet, and I know it was mentioned in a group chat, but there's a new Orphan film coming out, and the first Orphan film I really liked. And when they announced they were doing a sequel, admittedly, I was a bit apprehensive, like, oh, really? Like, what? But then when I saw the trailer, I was like, actually, you've sat down and from what I gather, I haven't seen it yet, but you can tell they've sat down and thought it out at least and said this would be cool to return to. And as you were just saying, this stage of the game with like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, I feel like a lot of these sequels were like, oh, we need a sequel, like clicking their fingers, like we need a sequel. What's the idea? Well, we got this character. Okay. She has a kid. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Freddy wants the kid, or Freddy wants to fuck over the kid. Love, nice. Print it, shoot it, go. And
yeah, exactly.
I just wish, like as you said, I just wish things would slow down a bit, and you can sit there and say, it's not just franchises. It happened with, I know we'll talk about it later, but it happened with Predator and it happened with Alien, where you some really good solid films, and then you have sequels where they're just like Ripley, clones, fuck it, just fuck it, just fuck it. so yeah, it's bang in the middle for me.
Yeah, I think generally with sequels that tends to happen though, doesn't it? Because even like Transformers or
you
know, there's so many you could go through. The Halloweens, for instance, or Leprechauns. There's loads of them. They did like
Tremors was another one.
Yeah, Tremors. I've got all the Tremors actually. I don't mind any of. But Resident Evils, and there's just money making machines, aren't they? But it would be nice to have just films that actually cared. Well, what is like a set of 3 films that? Well, Lord of the Rings obviously is one big book, isn't it? But like, I don't know where there's actual sequels that really do work.
Well, I mean, Dark Knight. I guess you could.
They were good, yeah. All 3 of those.
It was quite good. The most recent 2 It's like followed a pattern where it was done by one director, and this is part 1, this is part 2.
But that is a story already kind of built, isn't it?
Yeah, from a novel.
It's made, and all they got to do is.
I suppose you could argue Godfather, although I mean that's the classic, isn't it? But I would say the first one was better than the second one personally. But it's but it's that is the classic example, isn't it? About which one do you prefer, Godfather 1 or 2?
That's a really good question though. Like which? Sorry,
in the horror genre as well, that makes it even more tricky because there's so many.
Yeah,
like I'm looking at. What have I got in front? I've got 6 Paranormal Activities in front of me. They gradually get. I've got them all because
they gradually
I had to have them. But like Scream is again another one. Like I like the first one. That's about it for me.
Well, Hellraiser is another one.
Yeah.
I mean, Hellraiser is quite famous for it. Like a lot of people always talk about the original 3 of 1, 2, 3, and then they just remade it with different actors. And I know they're making another film that's going to go on Hulu, I think, which is delving more into actually the book of Hellraiser being not so much a boy or girl, but like this almost entity. And so I am looking forward to that film, I know we'll talk about it later, but with Prey, they put that straight onto Hulu, and I thought, oh, okay, here we go, the failure. That's why they're just shoving it on Hulu. But I was pleasantly surprised. So
Steve
I spit on your grave.
Steve Barnard, he put The Remakes of I Spit on Your Grave are an awesome trilogy. Now, I love Steve. He writes some awesome books, mate. So the Meathead trilogy, there's Tenter Boy and Tenter Girl. I own them all. I'm not going to tell you what goes on in them because it's batshit crazy. But it's definitely, I spoke about it on here before, worth reading. And
was that the one you recommended me to read?
Yeah,
I think I've read the first one.
Yeah, so there was the what was in the first one? 10.
Yeah,
was it? There's some babies in the bath and things. It's mental.
Yeah.
It really sticks with me, that one. But Steve gets in there. He's great, mate. I read that before I go to bed. Easy bedtime reading. So I love a bit of Steve. So glad he's on here as well.
Hostel was one where part one and two kind of again done by the same person. Story like
I
almost
don't like
part
Hostel,
one, part two.
Because I'm not into that type of horror. That's
body horror sort of thing.
I don't mind reading. I read a lot of Matt Shaw as well, and he writes about bits and pieces like that. And actually watching it, I don't know. Some of them, when they get their Achilles cut or whatever, they're at back of their leg. Not for me. So I can't think of any out anymore, really. I'm probably looking at a load now, but those Conjuring films, the Conjuring films, for instance, I kind of like 1 and 2. I know you hate them, and I do like the Annabelle Creation. I think that's a great film. The Nun is a bit of a disappointment. Yeah, it wasn't that rubbish. She's scary when but her itself was quite a good character. But all she can do is throttle you. So
but again, I don't want to go on a huge.
And that's appealing for some people.
I don't want to go on a huge tangent. But my issue with it's the same with The Conjuring, and I'll try and just sum it up more quicker. But when you read the real stories, there's so much mystery to it of like what was going on that in itself is scary. And so when you start adding in all this, like, oh, the kid goes through the hallway and there's the jangly man and the jangly man's in your tent, and it's like, why? And then with Annabelle, like the real story, you sit there and you go, and it's actually in Conjuring 1, which I actually did like how they did it.
Yes,
because it was very subtle of like, they changed the design, but it was like, this is the real story. This is actually, there were 2 girls who were nurses, and the guy who was one of the nurses' boyfriends. And then later on, they're just like, Annabelle, the reckoning. Learn how Anna became Annabelle, and it's like, I don't fucking care. Like, it's such a shame.
If there had been a lot of vaginas in it, you would have loved it. I would have. No.
Oh dear.
I get the feeling you don't like the Conjuring films. So
I like the first one. I like the first one. I thought the first one was actually very well done and it was fun. But it was, for me, it was the second one. It's the same with Insidious. Insidious, the first one, I was like, this is actually it's not the best, but I was like, it's a fun horror. You can sit down and just enjoy it. And then they were like, Insidious. Yes. It's bad. I own that film on a steelbook and I don't know why. Sometimes
you're sad like I am. That's all. Oh dear. Okay, so we rate this bonus and then move on because we've been talking bollocks for how long? 40 minutes now. It's not bad, is it? So Ewan, what are you throwing this one?
Yeah, so it was kind of a surprise to me because I actually ended up quite enjoying it. Obviously, it's a load of nonsense and a lot of it doesn't make sense, but I actually had quite a lot of fun with this, so I'd give it a 7.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give it. Yeah, 7. Yeah. Give it
I
7.
I will go 6. And that's just because I think that it's not, it's just a bit over halfway for me. There are others that I hold way more to the standard.
Okay, so that's just again, it's only going to go downhill now, listeners. Really, I think the next couple. Well, it's about that time in the show, and I'm going to say I haven't spoken to Dan for a couple of weeks. I know he's been a busy bee, so I'm going to get to what Dan might have picked. Right,
Excluded again.
I watched a foreign film.
Oh.
Okay. So Dan might
Shut the
watch
front
this.
door.
So it was in foreign. Right, it was called The Orphanage.
Yep.
Okay, and it was how do you say his name? Di Toro presents.
Guillermo del
Guillermo.
Toro.
Yeah,
How was it? Guillermo
Guillermo.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
All right, so The Orphanage. So I watched that the other night. So Laura has happy memories of her childhood in an orphanage. She convinces her husband to buy the place and help her convert it into a home for sick children. One day, though, her own adopted son disappears. I bought this on Blu-ray a while ago, so I think it had like 90-something%, no, 87% rotten. And I saw it come up, so I often have a look through the rotten, scores and see if there's something on there I haven't seen. And I've never seen this, so I've only paid a couple of pounds for it. And yeah, basically about this woman. She buys this orphanage, and her son, who is an adopted son, he has invisible friends. He likes to talk to, and they turn up more and more, and without giving too much away. And I'm definitely not going to give the end away. It's about what occurs there. And there's a little lad with a bag on his head. You've got to have a character with a bag on his head in places, and it's a good film. I'd probably give it 7. I wouldn't give it as much as 87. Did you like it, Ewan?
Yeah,
It came out a while ago.
I really like the film. I especially like how it's directed and shot.
Beautiful.
There's a scene where I think the mother's trying to like summon the ghosts or something, and she has to knock on this door and then look back, almost like a what's the time, Mr. Wolf kind of situation. And the camera goes once and there's nothing there. Camera goes twice, nothing there. And the third time there are a couple of kids there. I think that's a really effective shot, and I really like it. Also, I think Sackhead's that's what I call him personally. Sackhead is quite an effective kind of presence. He's just a creepy ghost type thing. The one thing I didn't like about that film, and I think it's The Orphanage, where I think it happens midway through, where there's like some kind of car accident, and there's like a really sort of deformed face or something that like screams at the screen. It's almost a bit CGI as well. So
okay. I might have been that boy.
Yeah, mate, I didn't really like that because I thought it was almost like a producer was like, you've got to add something gory. It's just because there's not really much happening at the moment. But I think the rest of it's very solid. I thought because it's about a couple and they're the sort of child, isn't it? So it's sort of I think it's got the kind of emotional value there as well. And when you sort of look at a ghost story that's been done like a million times, when you get something new out of it, I think that's always a good sign. So yeah, I quite enjoyed the Orphanage.
I enjoyed it. It was not. It's not gore. It's not that scary. There are some parts that are a bit chilling, but yeah, with the little boy he was going to die, wasn't he? The actual her adopted son, he was going to die, wasn't he? Because did he have HIV? I think he did.
I can't remember.
I can't remember if it's HIV, but I know he has something.
Yeah, he had something, and he was taking pills for it. And but yeah, it was good. So hopefully Dan may have picked that. It was in foreign, so I know Dan's speaks foreign.
I believe it's Spanish. Yeah,
It's Spanish. I don't, is that,
Yes,
do they
in
speak
foreign.
that in Sweden? They do, I think, don't they?
I don't think that's their native language.
Oh, okay.
I want to use
Um,
that in future. Just go somewhere and be like, you speak foreign.
I think a lot of English people do.
Yeah.
Lawrence.
I want to join that crowd.
British foreign muck. So, anyway, let's move on to what we've been watching this week.
What have you been watching?
No, seriously, what have you been watching?
Wow. Now, I haven't watched too much this week because I watched so much the week before, and we can touch upon some of that if you like.
Sure.
So let's. You've seen Nope. We're
I've
not going to
seen
talk Nope, but Larry's not seen Nope, has he?
Feel
We
free
can't-
to talk. Feel free to talk. Just
No.
or just
There-
maybe not a spoiler for the end. Maybe.
So there was a couple of things I watched that you probably got opinions on. So we go with Prey. Have you seen that?
I haven't
Okay.
seen it, so that could be.
I
yours.
have.
I want to give spoilers though.
I don't mind because I'm not a big fan of Predator in general. So you
Well,
can.
the Predators in it.
Yeah.
I was going to say
you
you can't really spoil it as well though, if you think about it. Like I'm pretty sure, without sounding bad, you pretty much know what's going.
I
to
can pretty much
happen.
guess what
Yeah,
basically is going
yeah.
to happen. but-
if you've seen the trailer for it, there you go.
a predator comes to Earth to kill some, I don't know, people or and bears and whatever else it can. What else does it skin? It skins something earlier on as well, doesn't it? In the film.
Well, yeah, 'cause it's the first time the Predator has come to Earth, so it's going over like the species. So like it sees a rat get eaten by a snake, and then it skins the snake because it's like, oh, the snake is the apex predator, and then it works its way up through the animals and then gets to humans, and there you go.
Yeah, and he's going to kill them, but they're Native Americans. So I said that right this week, without offending anyone. So, yeah, and it's about the girl. Again, I don't want to offend anyone, but she should be home, not doing the ironing and that, because obviously they haven't got irons and things like that. But she's meant to be at home, cooking and cleaning and what you know what I'm trying to say. She's, the Native Americans are very the men go out hunting, the women stay at home.
Well, is this
I-
set,
I will-
is this
I-
set in
no,
olden
no, I-
times?
Yeah, olden
I was
times,
gonna-
17,
Right, okay.
1700. It's not 1985. Well,
Right,
it could
yeah,
be.
gotcha,
No,
gotcha.
no.
So like it's
That makes more sense.
1700. So, but she wants to go out hunting, and she's very good at it too. And so she ends up with the fellas, and then they're all very good at hunting. And she has a fight with one of them, I think, as well. She beats the shit out of him, I think. And then they start getting attacked by the predator, and that's it. That is pretty much it. But they've only got bow and arrows and things, I think, tomahawks, whatever they had.
They have
and
all the they have lines from the original comeback. The whole "if it bleeds, we can kill it." That's
We
in
can
there.
kill it. Yeah. Which he does bleed. What I was glad about, and I love the first film a lot, but there's an awful lot of the is it infrared or whatever it is?
Yeah,
Those heat scenes. There's an awful lot of that, and that does kind of grate on me sometimes because there's a lot of it. But this doesn't have much of that at all. So yeah, it moved along quickly. I don't know it was really a cinema film. I don't think.
Yeah. I'd say my issues with it were two things. The story was really good. I actually really like the main character's kind of arc in that there is actually some validity. Like Tor said earlier, that her mum is very much to stay here and tribe, and you need to like fix up this, and you need to, when hunters come back and bring the food, you need to do this. And she very much I want to go out with my dog companion. And she's like, I want to hunt, and she wants to hunt a bear, which is they call it something basically like a sacred act where you kill your first predator in the wild. My only issues with it were actually two things, which is I think it could have been a lot gorier. I think they definitely settled on a 15 and were like, no, we'll CGI some of the blood and we'll do all this. Whereas I think the original's so good because it doesn't hold back on that. And the second thing was, I just want them to stop CGIing over practical effects, because when you watch the film, the Predator's face is CGI. Then when you watch the behind the scenes, they have a full animatronic face, and it looks amazing. And it's like, why they did it with the Thing prequel? It just stop thinking that people like practical effects. You know, you've got enough CGI going on. That was my only two issues. I think I've heard a lot of people go, "Oh my god, it's perfect," and it's like, it's not. It's not perfect in any way, but it's definitely a worthy sequel that is so enjoyable. It's like, yeah, I want to see more. And there's also a reference to Predator 2 in there with the old gun at the end, because that's the gun that Danny Glover gets given at the end of Predator 2. The
I need to watch that again, because I actually watched Alien versus Predator a couple of days before I watched that. I don't think I'd ever seen it properly, and I didn't mind that film. It was a bit stupid, but yeah, my son enjoyed it anyway. I don't know. I don't know if you liked Alien versus Predator.
Yeah.
I thought it was okay.
I like both of them. A lot of people don't like the second one, Alien vs Predator Requiem. I do agree that film is way too dark. Like, it's literally, you can't see the shit that's going on in the film. But I actually do think the film is very good. I think it goes back to basics of, let's make it gory, let's make it scary. You know, obviously we're not talking about Alien vs Predator Requiem, but there is a lot of stuff in that film where I'm like, if you took that and put it into another sequel, maybe to Prey, I feel like that could really benefit. But I get it. Like, I think you said, could I imagine it at the cinema? Yes, but I don't think it would do too well, which is a shame. So I'm, you know, it's because it's done by the guy who did 10 Cloverfield Lane. Yeah. So, like I said, the story's good, acting's really great, the imagery's great. I just want them to stop doing this Hollywood trope, which is build an animatronic. We shoot the animatronic and we disregard the animatronic and we make it CGI. Bit of a shame.
All right. Well, at least we enjoyed it, and I think you probably will. I hope so.
Maybe.
You will, definitely. I think you will. I think you'll run like, yeah, it was good.
Yeah. It's just one of those. Sorry, it's just one of those things. I with the whole sort of Predator thing. I mean, I said this before. I just don't. It's one of those. It's one of those series that everyone goes on about, and I'm just a bit like, I don't really. Yeah. I don't really get it, but fine, you know, that sort of thing. So I have no real sort of like, you know, urge to see Prey, but you know, I'll say it and see what's like.
Oh, here's a question really quickly though. You say that about the Predator franchise, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I've only seen the first one, so that's
So. What's your feelings on Alien? Because Alien have had a few sequels now, which have kind of gone.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen 3 Aliens. So I've seen Alien 1, Aliens, and Alien Covenant, which is probably a weird way of seeing them. I'm all right with them. I think I preferred Aliens to Alien, to be honest. But I think that's mainly because I'm not a massive fan of Ridley Scott. I like some of his movies, but I'm sort of, I don't know. I watch Alien and there are some great scenes in it, but I'm a bit, I don't know. I was a bit. I remember. Sorry,
I know what you're gonna say. I know what you're gonna say. I think.
Well, there's a time when we put it on at uni.
Yes, that's what I knew it was coming.
I think it was in the common room or something like first.
No, it's in lecture theatre.
Well, I for some reason I remember it being common, but I remember I was such a sort of snob. I was such a sort of coming from like our house and everything, and everyone was really loved like 80s movies, and you know they were stuck on Alien. And I was just like, wow, he's just copying Stanley Kubrick, isn't he? Just shot for shot. And I just got an annoying, you'll know who I'm talking about, an annoying Irish wine next to me, just sort of saying, would you shut the fuck up? You know? That's Scottish, sorry, but yeah, I don't. I think, you know, some of the Alien films are very well made. I think the James Cameron one is more entertaining because I think James Cameron knows how to be entertaining that way. I don't think Ridley Scott. I think Ridley Scott is probably better at sci-fi than he is at horror, and I think that's part of the reason why the first Alien movie doesn't work completely for me. But I still like it. You know, it's a well-made movie.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean. It's more like of a personal opinion than it is saying the film is bad or anything like that.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. I'll talk about one series I watched. I'm finished. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
So I really liked it. It brought back a lot of memories because obviously I see these films at the cinema before you boys were born.
Well, hang on. Well, wait. Oh no, you're talking about the original series. Oh,
I was
the
gonna
original.
say,
McGregor, we
yeah.
saw those. We saw those at the cinema.
Not the ones I saw. Like, so I kind of really like the character and I like how it worked. And I know there wasn't much to the storyline, but I enjoyed it. Not a lot went on. There was a few fights and kind of things you could see coming most of the time. But I liked it, and I don't know if we'll get another series. Probably not.
I think they have said. I think they've said that they want to do.
I thought Ewan McGregor was great.
He was good.
I don't know if I've ever seen him in a film. I didn't like the girl who played the bad character.
Leia.
You could call her.
Oh, the bad one.
No. Yeah, I didn't like the Leia character either, really. But I thought he was great, and I thought it was nice seeing Anakin again and things. Although it was a bit weird seeing him is older than.
Yeah,
what he was when he died. It's
that's
quite obvious.
That's the time where you need to use the CGI to just de-age. Because he had the whole bags under his eyes and everything.
Yeah.
You're not Anakin. Are you?
Like to me, that was like such an annoying scene because I mean, first of all, it's not necessary at all. But the reason why they put it in my opinion, the reason why they put it in is because it must be under Hayden Christensen's contract for his face to be seen at least once in the whole series, as opposed to be covered up by Darth Vader. Not even his voice; it's James Earl Jones' voice. It's just
Is it James Earl Jones? Is it not his
Yeah.
voice? I thought that was his voice.
They mixed it up a bit, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, I know
Is James Earl Jones still alive?
Yeah.
Hayden Christensen did like a few lines, which I think they edited, like the ending. Spoilers, just in case. But there's an ending scene where he speaks like where half Vader, half Anakin. And I know he did those lines. But I think my only issue with the series is it shouldn't have been a series. It should have just been a film.
Which I think was the original plan. I think it was the original plan. But then
there's a lot of excess.
it was being developed as a film round about the time that Solo was made, and then Solo didn't do very well, and they said, "Oh, we don't really want to do this as a film anymore." So you're right. I think it would have been better as a.
Well, there's an edit online that you can watch that someone has taken the whole series and cut out all the waffle and made it into a 2 hour and 20-minute film. And I've watched it, and obviously it's not perfect because it's somebody taking a series and editing it down, but it just shows that it works 10 times better than a series, in my opinion.
But I tell you what, though, I mean, I was contrary to you and Kev, I guess. I was quite disappointed by this series, but the thing that sort of I came back to was that I thought that there was there's a YouTube video. I'm sure many people have seen it, where they essentially, it's a fan-made movie, a fan-made video where they get the scene of Obi-Wan Kenobi in the New Hope, and they get him to flash back. Emotionally to the prequel trilogy, and I actually thought that video is more effective and emotional than the entirety of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, because I just felt there was nothing new being added. There was a new sort of dark character who may be on Vader's side, or maybe not. It turns out she's not really. It's a whole weird storyline with her, but she was the only new thing in this series, and she could have provided a lot more than she did. But they said, "Oh, go Obi-Wan just moping around in the desert, just like, oh, I'm so upset.
Where's Qui-Gon?
Yeah, where's Qui-Gon?
He turns up, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like it was a series of
But
it was a series of characters being like,
Yeah.
hey, character that we haven't seen in a while. Hopefully you'll show up. Hopefully, wink, 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 wink. Just wait till the end. Wink, wink, wink.
but what were the lads from Hellraiser? Or they looked like
Oh,
the Inquisitors. They
Yeah.
look like they were from Hellraiser or from
Oh,
that
well,
world.
Yes, well, so
Oh.
but this is where Star Wars. This is the thing. This is where Star Wars is like now expanded to a point where it's not now just if you watch these films. It's now have you watched these films and the series and the sub series and the animated series because
Oh,
that
they're from
that-
that, are they?
yeah,
Oh,
because
okay.
the Inquisitor is actually from Rebels, I believe. It's either Rebels or the Clone Wars, and I know a lot of people saw his design and went, "That's not the character." I mean, they did it recently in the Book of Boba Fett. They took oh god, I can't remember his name. The blue fucker with the hat.
I've only seen the first episode.
Yeah, no,
Smurf.
okay. No, well, so he's like a bounty hunter, and he's in all of the animated series like quite a few times, and they brought him in, and I actually think they did that all right. They did that very well, but my biggest issue is like it's with the Ahsoka series that's coming out soon, or at least like it's being filmed, and it's going to obviously tie into Rebels, and I don't know. I feel like the company is banking on people going, "Oh, you've watched Rebels, yeah?" And it's like, no, I haven't watched Rebels, and it's just a bit like, "Oh, well, you should." And it's like, "Well,
Yeah.
I don't fucking want to."
Yeah,
So
I mean that was another thing that annoyed me about the series is that they wasted such good actors that they almost become cameos. So, I mean, Benny Safdie, for instance,
Yeah.
one half of the Safdie brothers, he was a great actor in his own right. He was in Good Time, which he also co-directed. He's in there for only like one or two scenes, and he's been built up for a while in the press saying, "Oh, he's going to be." Then there's Kumail Nanjiani, who's a great comedy actor. Who does have a bigger role.
He
but-
was wasted. I thought he was wasted.
Yeah, he just does nothing. Or he just
Yeah.
helps out a little bit, and he doesn't.
Which
He's
one
not
was he?
given. He
He was
was
the
the
fake Jedi.
Yeah. He was the
yeah,
fake
the fake
Jedi.
Jedi. Yeah,
Right, okay.
because
was
he's
good.
got he's because he's got so much comedic talent. I mean, if you watch like Silicon Valley or The Big Sick, or his various other comedy projects he's often on being interviewed and stuff, he's a very funny, charismatic actor and comedian. And I was thinking there, he's just given nothing. He's just given formulaic dialogue, and he's just given no chance to really like
Well,
show
they-
himself. And I'm
they-
just like, why did they cast him?
Well,
And I
they-
can only imagine that is because he's a recognizable face as opposed to using his talents.
They did the same with him, in my opinion, in Eternals, because they had him. I don't know if you've seen Eternals, but
I haven't.
they did the same thing. They brought him in, and they were like, he's an Eternal, and he's literally there for like, he's gonna do some witty lines every now and then. And like you said, I thought he was wasted. I thought he was wasted in this because he shows up as this fake Jedi, and his story arc is, again, it's not a spoiler because his story arc is literally, I'm a criminal. 2 seconds later, no, I get it. I get my ways. I need to help the Jedi. Come on, guys, let's band together. And I was a bit like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
So I would give that 8.
Yeah, no, me and my dad really enjoyed. We did
Yeah.
enjoy watching it. I just
You
wish
and
it was a
obviously
film.
Not so much.
It was something that I began being quite entertained by, and then gradually just got more and more disappointed. Especially as like you get that's my last thing on it. But when you got like really badly written sequences, like when Obi-Wan hides Leia under his coat. And it's just such a it's such a cartoonish moment that's just like it's not even funny because it's like almost meant to be taken seriously, and it's just like I don't get it. But
I was just waiting for the quotes. Like literally when I was watching it, I was like, come on, please, Ewan McGregor, please. And then at the end he was like, hello there, and I was just like, he said it.
I said it.
Hello there.
He said the thing from that one film. What?
Okay, so the only other thing I've been doing, I've been playing the Stick of Truth, South Park on my Xbox, which I just pick up and play now and again. And it, you know, some of the things that in that game are so funny. Or even when they go to Cartman's mum's bedroom, you walk up there and there's a crack pipe on the side and a bloody great vibrator, and it's like it
Have
just
you
makes me like
Have
every
you played
time.
the sequel?
I own it, but I haven't got to it, so I'm going to
Okay.
finish the Stick of Truth. 'Cause I don't get a lot of time, so
Yeah.
I might pick it up and play for half hour, an hour, just like an episode, really, because that's how it plays.
Mm.
I learned to fart earlier. Cartman taught me how to do that, which was
Oh,
which
just
was-
in general, I learned to fart.
So,
Finally.
it was very good. So I've been playing that, and I highly recommend it. It's just a lot of fun if you're old like me and you can't cope with all these fast-moving games. So that was all good. So that's pretty much me done. So I'm sure it's been a couple of weeks since we spoke, really, isn't it? So I expect you got a bit to talk about, guys. So who wants to go first?
I can go, I guess.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess the most pertinent thing is Nope, which I saw a week or so ago.
Me
or so
too.
ago.
Me too.
Yeah, and you
Last
saw
week.
it too.
It was about a week ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Jordan Peele's new film about a family of ranchers who lend horses to movie sets. And they're the only, I think they sell themselves as the only black family to do so, and that they're descended from. So the first piece of film ever made was A Horse in Motion by, I think, Eadwood Muybridge, and the person on the horse was a black guy, and this family is descended from that black guy, and it's basically about them, and they discover that something's moving around in the sky. It transpires that it's a UFO, but not a UFO as we usually know it.
Are we giving this away? Are we going full on?
I won't give it away. I'll just say.
It
Say
sounded
yo.
like you were creeping towards it. Then
I'm not gonna reveal what happens.
see little Larry's face then. Just...
Yeah. And there's also to the side, there's this other story involving a chimp and a sitcom set.
I like that a
A
lot.
yeah, there was a horrendous accident.
Wait, so I
involving a
was
chimp.
right about the chimp.
Well, you were. Not in. Well, not what.
Yeah, there's an old conspiracy theory about a chimp, but like,
In a movie,
yeah,
in any theory.
But
yeah.
but I don't.
Well,
but it's not.
I
it's
haven't
not,
seen it, so I
it's
can't
not
really
treated as a
comment.
conspiracy. It's just like a sub story within the.
When I see it, I'd have to. Obviously, I'm not going to comment on it, but
It
I
is
want
so
to see
tense,
if it
isn't
is.
it?
I want to see if it
I
is
love-
the conspiracy because
I love it.
the chimp, because loads of people were apparently went missing. The conspiracy theory is that a lot of people went missing from the set.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, I mean, this.
I love the two different reactions. Kev's like, no,
This-
no,
this-
and then Ewan's like, yeah,
Do it.
yeah.
Stop.
No, well, I mean, this is the interesting thing. Obviously, I won't reveal anything, but it's based like a child that was involved that grows up to be this who's the head of another a sort of theme park Wild West situation, played by what's his name, from Walking Dead, and
Oh,
Korean guy.
Stephen
Wen. So yeah.
Oh, Stephen Wen.
And he's very good in it. But I mean,
very
I was watching it and it's sort of like, yeah, this is a really good scene. This is really good. Oh, and there were actually some points where like, this is the best thing Jordan Peele's ever done. But I kept on waiting. There are so many loose threads that are just thrown in there. And I just kept on waiting for them to be tied up. And then the film ends and it just sort of leaves you hanging in that way, which is a very risky way to do it. A lot of people
Down to
liked it.
interpretation.
Does it just end abruptly? Does it just kind of just
Well,
go?
a big portion happens and then
It
there
just
is a
ends.
climax, yes. But I feel like, especially with the stuff involving the chimp, I feel like we're very unresolved. It's
It's
connected
probably like
in
the
the
conspiracy theory, though, isn't it?
yeah. I don't know what that is, Lawrence, but I'll let you what that is.
I didn't get any conspiracy theory.
No, that's
from
me
that
going
monkey.
down a rabbit hole
You
of
really-
just
you
through my
need-
life.
You need to go and watch it.
But it's
Yeah, no,
interesting
really
because
do.
I think a lot of my issue with it is that it goes in with like, okay, the theme is spectacle and how the modern world is obsessed with spectacle, especially with iPhones and YouTube and everything. We're all obsessed with like, seeing like a car wreck on the side of a road or something. We're all attracted to like brutality and violence and stuff like that. And it's trying to comment on that. And there are some times when it's quite effective, but I feel like it's not as profound as it really wants to be. In my review, for Culture Whisper. Look it up online now.
I have.
Yeah, good.
Culture Whisper.
I actually opened with with Funny Games, which which I sort of owe to this podcast really because I rewatched it because of this podcast. And you can see like how Michael Haneke approaches Funny Games. It says so much about spectacle with a fraction of the budget and within four walls mostly. It says more about spectacle in the modern world than Nope does with $68 million and with I think 2 hours and 10 minutes. It's entertaining, it's fun, but I feel like it's not as like I don't know. It's certainly not as politically profound as Us or Get Out.
Well, that was going to be my question for both of you. Is that out of all three films that he's done, how are you ranking them? Because obviously you guys have seen all. I've seen the other two.
I watched Us last week. That's the other. Obviously, I did a podcast on that.
Yeah. I would love to know where you rank them because you've seen all three of them.
I would go Get Out, then Nope, then Us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mine's gonna be different. Mine's Us, Get Out, and Nope. I think. And Nope is by no means a bad film. It's very well made, very Spielbergian. As I was watching it, it was like Close Encounters, and then I looked online and it's like, oh yeah, Jaws. Yeah, of course, it's pretty much exactly the Jaws plotline in some ways. But as those aspects are really good. But there are also a lot of wasted talent. I thought a bit like Obi-Wan Kenobi, where it's like Stephen Wen, he's good when he's in it, but I don't think you like we've seen him in like he was in a film called Minari recently. He was in a film called Burning, where you see like the true breadth of his acting. I mean, also Walking Dead.
He is a great actor.
Yeah.
Like he's in an A24 film, isn't he? I don't know what.
I think that's Minari.
Oh,
yeah,
right. Okay.
Which is a very good film.
Yeah.
But I feel here he's got a few scenes where it's good, but I just feel they didn't get the most out of him. And for some reason, they also have I'm sorry if I mispronounce his name, but Barbie Ferreira, who isn't that well known on the film scene, but she's best known for being in Euphoria, that sort of that teen drama TV series, which is a great series and one of the best in the last few years, in my opinion. But she's only given like 4 or 5 scenes. I'm just like, why have her at all? And the obvious answer is that, oh yeah, she's just a recognizable face, much like the Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I don't know, I hate it when they do that personally. And obviously the actor's up for it. It's like, oh yeah, I want to be in a Jordan Peele film. It's like, oh no, you've only got like 3 lines. It's like, oh okay.
My last question, without a spoiler: do horses play an actual part? Because I've seen a lot of promotional material and horses are all on the poster. So I just wanted to ask, does that actually play into it, or is it just the ranch aspect?
Yeah.
Okay, no, cool.
So I would recommend anyone to see it because it is a Jordan Peele film, and I think he's very on the pulse. And in terms of, but I also wouldn't call this a horror film.
Definitely not a horror film.
No, it didn't look like a horror film.
Which I feel like it's being promoted as a horror film.
Definitely not.
But it's very much a sort of dark sci-fi. There are some bits which are a bit horror-y, but I was quite annoyed. Like that, a lot of them are a bit deflated, and I wonder if the second time they'd be as effective as they were because of that deflation. But it's worth seeing. Did he do the Twilight Zone?
Yes,
He-
yes,
yeah,
the new series.
Yeah, that's it. So that's what it felt like a bit, like a big old version of an episode of the Twilight Zone.
You watch, I'll see this, and I'll give it 10 out of 10 bonus. I can see it happening already.
You might do. I would give the monkey scenes 10 out of 10. I'm not so sure about the rest.
Does it have? Oh no, I can't keep asking
Go on.
because I'm going to. No, I was going to say, does the chimp have blue eyes? Bright blue eyes.
I don't remember.
But, I probably would. He just got a bit upset. I think.
Yeah.
So
It's got really upset.
He did. So you need to see it. We don't want to give it away to you.
Yeah, no, I plan to see it this week.
Recommend the cinema though, not
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
watch it at home.
I have to. The cinema. Just a side note before we continue, but it's a shame because Cineworld, going out of business. and that's
Yeah,
the
going
cinema
Bangkok.
right near me. So I definitely have to go see it, because if not,
Yeah.
I will the worst cinema.
But I didn't watch
Mm.
Us on the big screen, and I think that affects why I see it as my least favourite. Now, I own it, but I saw Get Out on the big screen. I didn't see
Yeah.
Us, so I think I might have been missing out on something there. But yeah. So sorry, Ian. More?
Yeah, so it's fine. So that was no. I also watched. So it's coming out eventually in America
Nice.
anyway. It's coming out tomorrow. But I saw House of the Dragon, or the first 6 episodes of House of the Game of Thrones prequel.
That's out here tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah, it's out on Monday evening. It should be.
It's
should be
out. It's out on what, Prime already in America? Or
No, in America, I think it's on
HBO
Sunday
Max.
night in America on HBO Max. Yeah, and over here it's on Sky Atlantic. So House of the Dragon.
Wait, it's on Sky Atlantic.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Bruce Lee film.
Oh,
to be honest.
I thought it would
Yeah,
be like
yeah.
how they did the
No.
old Game of Thrones, where it wasn't like available. No.
Well, the old Game of Thrones
I'm
was
being
on Sky.
no. This one, yeah, no. Sorry, I was internet person.
Oh, it's on Sky, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's on-
Sky. Yeah.
It's on
Yeah.
Sky tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's interesting. So it's set 172 years before the birth of Daenerys Targaryen. So it's mainly following the Targaryen dynasty, who are in King's Landing, ruling over the 7 kingdoms. Paddy Considine plays King Viserys I, who's sitting on the Iron Throne at the moment. His daughter Rhaenyra is sort of wanting to become heir, but because she's a woman, that's something the male patriarchs can't really accept. So it's a lot about her journey, to be honest. It's about her sort of trying to navigate all that and wanting to be named an heir and wanting to prove herself despite all these forces against her. I got to tell you, I wasn't that impressed. That's probably a bit harsh, but I was sort of, because the thing is about Game of Thrones, I mean, there's a lot of things can say about Game of Thrones. I actually like most of Game of Thrones, and that includes the last season. I don't think it's amazing, but I think I just think it's fine.
Blasphemy.
I know. I've had very aggressive arguments with people. Not the aggression not coming from me, keep in mind.
No,
often from the opposite side. And I watched House of Dragon, and it is interesting, and I was absorbed in it. And I couldn't wait for the next episode. But I feel like it didn't have the same emotional weight of Game of Thrones, to be honest. Mainly because none of the characters are especially likable. The only likable characters really is Rhaenyra, who you're kind of rooting for. But it also jumps in time with every episode. So I think the distance between the time between episodes 1 and 2 is 6 months. Between 2 and 3 is 2 years, and then eventually it's 10 years later. So you don't really get the same emotional weight. You get a good story, and it is about the dynasty, so you kind of want to know the history of it. But I just felt like I wasn't as emotionally engaged with the story.
Are these already written
Yeah.
books?
Well, it's sort of partially based on Fire and Blood, which is George R. R. Martin's like history of Westeros. Very much like, the Silmarillion is
it as
Tolkien world.
political?
Yeah.
It
I
is
was kind of annoyed that, because there are various similarities to Game of Thrones, like, issues of succession and stuff like that. And also, one of the best characters is Matt Smith as Daemon Targaryen, who's the kind of a wayward, hedonistic brother of Viserys, by Paddy Considine, who's the king on the Iron Throne. He's one of the best characters because he's like so wayward and ridiculous. And Matt Smith is perfect for that role, because not only has he played a kind of an annoyed prince in The Crown, but also you get, even though he has none of the morals of the Doctor. Because I watched a lot of his episode as the Doctor, and Matt Smith was very good at those in sort of straddling that line between being funny and joyous and being aggressive and traumatized and stuff like that. And that aggression he keeps for Daemon, which I think is very good. But again, I'm sort of watching it kind of like, I don't know. I just feel like it's not Game of Thrones, and I feel like I'm not that emotionally invested. And there are so many scenes where I'm just like, So there's like because it's supposed to be set in like they try and make it like it's a different time period from Game of Thrones by having more antiquated attitudes to things. So there's like child brides and stuff like that. And even though I understand where they're coming from, they're trying to create that realistically medieval atmosphere. I just feel like when you've got a child actor saying, "You won't have to bed me until I turn 14," I'm just a bit like, it just feels too gross for me to really
A
be
bit
entertained
cringy.
by. It's a bit cringy. I understand why they're doing it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But reviews have been all over the place for this. I've seen 3 stars. I've seen 4 stars. I've even seen 5 stars in many cases. I wouldn't say this was 5 stars at all. I would understand if you gave it 4 stars, but for me, I'd probably give it 3. So probably about 6 or 7 bonus. So it's worth
Nice.
watching, especially if you're a Game of Thrones fan. But I feel like I didn't get as much out of it as I wanted to.
Nice.
Also, I'll end on this, but I finished The Sandman on Netflix.
I haven't started this yet. I've heard
Okay.
so much about it, and I'm a
Okay.
bit at odds at myself to start it. So what you say will probably tip the scales.
Yeah, I really like The Sandman. I think it's great. It's funny really because I think I remember first hearing about The Sandman at uni because a few people read the comic books. and,
DC Comics.
yeah, the DC Comics, and I really like the concept as well. It's basically about the King of Dreams, and he sort of goes around back to people's actual dreams, and he has his own dream realm of his own where people come to dream and he controls people. And it's an interesting one because it has this almost a Haunting of Hill House situation in terms of its structure, where it's like episodes 5 and 6 are by far the best episodes of the season, and I would actually say a couple of my favorite episodes of the year because I think they're so dramatic and poignant. And there's a scene where because one of Dream's siblings is Death, and I think in episode 6 he goes with Death like around like people who she's gonna like meet in the afterlife sort of thing, and it's a really lovely and poignant episode. There are times when it gets ridiculous in that sort of Neil Gaiman-y way, because I really like Neil Gaiman and I love the directions he goes in, but sometimes it's a bit like, I don't know, he goes a bit too ridiculous at times.
Sometimes it's a bit too Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, exactly. But saying that, I really enjoyed watching this series, and I really enjoyed Tom Sturridge as the Sandman, because you sort of watch it at first and I actually think he's quite a funny character because he's such a mopey bastard. It's sort of like he talks in a sort of monotone voice at first, and I was like, is this intentionally funny? And I was like, I actually think it is funny, and it's sort of and you can sort of see that with the dynamic with his sister, because his sister is actually really sort of upbeat and cheerful. There's a great scene where they're sitting on a bench and he's moping about his life, and his sister just goes, "Will you just cheer up, please?" And it's just, I just love those aspects, and I just love because the Sandman interacts. He gets imprisoned for like 100 years at the start, and he tries to go back to his realm, and it's like decrepit and fallen, and so he goes to recover everything that makes him. So like his bag of sand and a ruby, and so he
His bag of sand,
his special bag of sand. And he meets various characters along the way, like the Devil and Constantine, brilliantly played by Jenna Coleman, I have to say. But I think one of the series' strengths is making you care about a character very, very quickly. And I think that's a very rare talent in sort of TV writing, because you can blast it with exposition as much as you want to. It's very rare that you get to care about the character, but they introduce characters like in 2 minutes and immediately you care about them because there's going to be something that's really horrible that happens to them. And this series doesn't hold back. And I think that's also rare sometimes in fantasy, at least on TV, Game of Thrones aside. I'm talking about mainly sort of the fairy tale fantasy of Neil Gaiman and stuff like that. You rarely get things that are really awful. How you like in this? You get like domestic abuse, you get paedophiles, you get sort of people who have done like really, really awful things. And the Sandman punishes. And they've released an episode recently, a bonus episode, which is more like 2 short stories. And I have to say, this is unrelated. It's unrelated to the plot, so it's not that bad. But the Calliope is a really amazing short. Basically, it's about this author who kind of wants to essentially purchase a muse, like one of the like Greek muses, who's a woman and who was once this author's muse, but he like buys her, and it's almost like a sex trafficking transaction, and that's how it's sort of looked at, and he doesn't want to free the muse because he wants to keep getting profit from her, and it's a really interesting episode, and yeah, I've really enjoyed like delving into this world, and it's been so sort of almost relaxing to watch at times, even though there are dark things that happen in it. It's just nice to sort of escape, you know. So yeah, that's about it.
I'll have to watch it.
Nice one. Oh, sounds good.
I will be super quick.
Okay.
Speed round. I have watched. I showed Ria It Chapter 1, It Chapter 2.
Nice.
I also showed her Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane. And all 4
not
of the
Cloverfield
films...
Paradox.
No. We don't speak of it. So yeah, all of those films were enjoyed. I watched the new Jamie Foxx film on Netflix, the vampire one, Night Shift, I think it's called. Really enjoy. No, the thing is, I would say it's 3-star for me out of 5. It's enjoyable. The thing that really hooked me was the action. It knows what it is. It is a bit stupid in some of its comedy, but I put it on and just thought, you know what, fuck it. It's brand new. I was like, I've seen a trailer for it. I was like, you know what, I'll watch it. But there was never a point where I was bored. I was like, when it finished, I was like, that was actually a really good film, enjoyable. But I've got 3 films that I would recommend, and I've got them all here.
Yeah, let's get right.
Number 1. Where the Wild Things Are.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
It is
I like that. Yeah.
Great film of the children's story. Has the guy from Sopranos, I forget his name, Don Mancini. Is it Don Mancini? Basically,
James Gandolfini, but that
is it. That is it. I think.
Yeah, sorry.
I think it is it. Don Mancini. Don't know who Don Mancini is. But yeah, no, really good. And I would give it a watch. I would say it's a bit like existential in a way, because when I watch this film and you've read the children's book, it's very different. But very good. My second film is I Saw the Devil.
Nice
I've heard that recommended so many times.
I love
that
film.
It's fantastic. I'm trying to get Ria to watch it, but we have to make sure it's on an evening where we can both connect our brains actually and not just space out. Really, really good. Very violent, quite graphic. There is body horror elements in it, but it's such a good story. Don't want to say too much.
Is that with the serial killer and a detective?
Yes, yeah.
I
Serial
do
detective.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Other than that, it would be Old Boy, which is in there somewhere, which I would recommend.
It's a good film. Yeah.
And then my last one to recommend would be Brain Dead, although I don't know if you can get this anymore because
it's on Prime somewhere, isn't it?
No, that's the thing. It's not. You like
really?
Yeah, I had to buy this from Germany. Yeah, I bought it a while ago. Peter Jackson's first B horror movie, and it's essential if you're a horror fan.
It's a good fun. It's good fun.
You can watch it online, I imagine. Like, you know. But
I thought I saw that somewhere the other day on stream.
It's the lawnmower scene for me.
Yeah. There are so many good scenes, but it's I think it just goes to show that like you can start off making a B movie and then go on to make one of the best, well, if not the best trilogy of all time. So my point being is if you've not seen it, watch it. Because it's a great film. It knows exactly what it is. but also it's just fun to like, because we watched the Lord of the Rings, obviously, as I mentioned on the podcast recently. I watched all the extended ones, and in my head I was like, you know what, I'd love to go back and watch Brain Dead, or technically Dead Alive, because it has 2 titles.
Because isn't the first? I was wondering about the first scene that's set on Skull Island. Is it
Skull Island? Yeah.
It feels like that mountain or wherever they are looks very similar to the passage to the dead in Return of the King.
Yeah,
you know,
it's because it's I think it's all shot in New Zealand.
Yeah. So it's probably the same place.
But yeah, it's great. If anyone hasn't seen it, who's listening, and
I need to own
you're a horror
I need to
fan.
own it. Yeah.
Again, just the only thing I double check is just make sure it's in your region. Like, that's the biggest thing, because you can there is a few Blu-rays if you just search it on Amazon, but all of them are like region A.
Yeah.
And it isn't going to play. So and also you can't, if you can, I'll be the first to buy it, but I know from a load of times checking on a regular that you can't seem to get it on Blu-ray. But I know Peter Jackson has talked about remastering it and making it like a Arrow Video sort of deal, cool. where it's like a box set with a book of how he did it and everything. So if he does that, you know, I'll be getting it. But at the moment, the best bet is just eBay, if you can find someone who has a region copy. But great film. And yeah, that's it.
Okay. I think you froze very briefly there. Yeah.
Oh.
Just a little bit. We haven't got Dan's hot pick, but I do have a film to watch. So that kind of Japanese or whatever Evil Dead film. So I'll put it out there next week. I'll put it on our group chat. I can't remember what it's called. It's something to do with a bodybuilder. I think that may even be on like Prime. I come across it the other day, but I come and try and find the name and put it out there. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's the Bones Horror Pod. Yeah, if you want to follow us on Facebook, you can't, because they're a bunch of cunts. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, it's the Bones Horror Pod. What else we got? If you want to email us, boneshorrorpod@gmail.com. I think that's it, really.
And send us in all your pics of you and bandanas.
That'd be great. Yes. So best bandana wins a copy of what could they win this week? The shit version of Evil Dead that we haven't been able to get rid of. So yeah, send us in a photo of you with a shit bandana, and you could win that. So
send us in your best picture of a bandana. We'll all sign this bandana.
Yeah, what was I going to say? Yeah, so next week's episode is Freddy's Dead, which is episode 90. So we're well on our way to 100. The final nightmare, is it? There's a lot of final stuff, isn't there? Like, it's
yeah,
always,
this is the final nightmare. Then the next one's the new
final,
nightmare.
and there's a new one. So yeah, you can.
It's called Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare.
Wow. Have you got a box set?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you have the same one I do.
Oh wow!
It's a thinner one though, I think.
Yeah, no, I've got the thinner one as well.
I've got a biggish one.
I think I got it at uni, Lawrence, and I just never watched them.
I got that box set, and then at the time the dog we had destroyed it, so it's in my it's in there, but it's all chewed up, like the case, like the casing.
So
which is
the other thing I bought, and I was going to try and do one of these a week because I thought it was about time I did it. So I bought that.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
So
Blu-ray, yeah.
Yeah, it's very large, and there's a fair few films on there, and I've got the 4K. It didn't have the new film, the new James Bond in there, but I do own the 4K version anyway, which looks spectacular, actually. So I'm going to try and do at least one a week, so that keeps going for 30 weeks, whatever, of that. So yeah, we'll be back next week with Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. Yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. See you later.
Bye.
I'm sorry, it won't be next week before the boys because I'm away at a festival. So probably the week after. See you later. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, is he frozen?
Is he? Good time.
Hang on. Two secs.
Oh God, the
Oh,
audience have lives.
Oh, no, there he is. See you later.
Bye.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Stop it! You're ignorant.